And welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. Please make sure that you watch this. Make sure that you like this. Make sure that you share it. So hit subscribe, watch, comment, and share, because the lunacy, I got that from the other one, the lunacy, it's not going to stop. Not until we make it. Now look, JD Vance, or as we call him here on this show, Shady Vance, been on a bit of a press tour recently. Now, some people saying it could just be because he is the vice president, or maybe he's feeling the pressure about 2028 and the potential Democratic candidates that are actually standing up to Trump. This week, he spoke in Wisconsin. And of course, he spoke with Will Cain on Fox News. Vance goes on, he addresses the shooting, which he should be. He addressed the shooting in Minneapolis, but of course, made it controversial. He goes on, he tries to say that there shouldn't be a problem with giving thoughts and prayers if you also do things to prevent future shootings. Let me be clear about something. I absolutely agree with that. 100%. Yeah, you could say your thoughts and prayers, but do something to prevent it from happening again. That's what's happening. Play the clip.
My final point on this is when I see far left politicians say, how dare you offer thoughts and prayers? You need action. I don't care about your prayers. I care about what you're going to do to prevent this from happening. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't you pray for the speedy recovery of these kids who literally just got shot yesterday, while at the same time committing to making sure this doesn't happen again, or that it happens as infrequently as possible? I don't think there's anything inconsistent about saying a prayer to God for these innocent, beautiful kids, while also thinking constructively about how we're going to prevent this from happening the next time. You can do both of those things. You can hold a thought, both of those thoughts in your head at the same time. And Will, if you are a politician or you're a media commentator and two beautiful babies just got murdered while praying, and your politics force you to condemn prayer in response to it, you ought to get new politics, because something very wrong has gone on inside your soul.
No, what's wrong here, you idiot and a half, is the fact that, yeah, thoughts and prayers is great, but what action is being done to prevent mass shootings? And the answer is none. So what you do is you get past it with your thoughts and your prayers. And hey, by the way, when the child is dead, no thoughts and no prayers and no hospital bringing that child back. So yeah, that's why action is needed. Now look, as I said earlier this week, MAGA is too caught up in the motive behind the shooting. And Vance, well, what did he do? He parroted that idea. Play the clip.
That I think is really worth taking a look at, because this happens too much in our country. And if you look, we really do have, I think, a mental health crisis in the United States of America. We take way more psychiatric medication than any other nation on earth. And I think it's time for us to start asking some very hard questions about the root causes of this violence. And I'm going to be part of that, and the First Lady and the President are going to be part of that. But that's going to be an American conversation that we're going to have together. But before we have that conversation,
the hell is he talking about? Seriously? Sure, we need to improve mental health. But what is he babbling about? Before you want to start figuring out how you're going to find these people, how about just take away their weapons of death from them, which is easier to get, believe it or not. It's easier for an 18-year-old to get an AR assault rifle than it is to get a beer at a 7-Eleven. All right? Stick that in your pocket, JD. Meanwhile, Vance also goes on, he speaks about sending troops into cities, claiming that he wouldn't be forcing it on anyone. Well, bullshit. And I think DC and LA residents, and very soon to be Chicago and then New York, would all disagree. Play the clip.
The question. What the president has said is that, very simply, we want governors and mayors to ask for the help. The President of the United States is not going out there forcing this on anybody, though we do think that we have the legal right to clean up America's streets if we want to. But what the president has said is very simply is, why don't you invite us in?
Because they don't believe they have a problem. Before you start thinking about New York or Chicago, how about just Palm Beach? Look at what the murder rate is in Palm Beach. Look at what the murder rate is in Louisiana. Look at what the murder rate is in Cleveland. in Ohio. Seriously? So far, the only states that he's targeting, of course, are Democratic-run states. Vance also goes on, he tells the listeners to not believe the lies. Don't believe the lies. Trump is trying to rebuild the healthcare system. Sure, play the clip.
And that's what this legislation did. So don't believe the lies and don't believe the attacks. What we are doing with this legislation is giving you a tax cut and trying to rebuild the healthcare infrastructure of this country that got decimated under Joe Biden's leadership. But what we are also doing, in order to preserve the benefits that you've paid into for your entire lives, is making sure those benefits only go to our fellow American citizens and not to people who ought to go back to their home country because they're here in this country illegally. It's very simple.
It's truly amazing, and I hope you had an opportunity to look at the crowd that's sitting there. Really? Let me be very clear about something. You heard me say this a million times. Numbers don't lie. People do. Let me show you what More Perfect Union posted about healthcare in the United States. In it, they write over 330 hospitals, 330 will be forced to close or scale back services due to Republican legislation that ultimately guts $400 billion in critical funding, and that is to protect our care. Seriously? What about the people that are there in that audience, these clapping monkeys that is sitting there? Clapping for what? Clapping for the fact that they want to have a barbecue this Labor Day weekend? The cost on your hamburger is 22 to 25% higher? I'm not talking about even the grading on the meat. All meat, 22 to 25. Meat has become the new eggs. This is ridiculous. And yet you're turning around and you're seeing from an independent agency saying 330 hospitals. You think it's not going to take place in Republican cities and states? Of course it is. Now, Vance goes on and he continues to say that illegal aliens are the reason that we don't have good public health care in the United States. You can't make this stuff up. Play the clip.
It's very simple. And think about this. Think about the math, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot have these healthcare benefits if you allow tens of millions of people into this country who have no legal right to be here and give them those benefits. We were on the freight train to bankruptcy under Joe Biden's leadership because we had a Democratic Party that didn't care enough about this country to actually enforce our borders. And it's that simple. And so when I...
Can somebody please tell me where this bankruptcy conversation is even coming from? And why is it that nobody is responding back? What? They all lived through the Biden administration. Now, let me be crystal clear. All right. There are many things that I think the Biden administration did wrong. Many things. But I have to absolutely say that this country is no more on the verge of bankruptcy today than it was under the 4 years of the Biden administration. In fact, I have no idea where they're even getting this information from. Now, Vance, of course, turned to talk about Democrats, saying that they need to be less serious. Right, because we're not living in serious times. Play the clip.
One, she thought politicians ought to have a sense of humor. Democrats, the one thing they should learn from President Trump is to laugh at themselves a little bit. They don't have to be so serious. They don't have to get offended at everything. Sometimes it's actually a good thing to have a sense of humor about our political process. And
yeah, and I hope that every time that you look in the mirror, you're laughing. You and your tattooed on mascara. Hopefully it's making you laugh. Because it makes me laugh. Meanwhile, he also goes on, tries to claim that Democrats are contrarians and always disagree with Trump. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again right now. If Trump does something that I think is positive for America, for all Americans, I say so. I am not anti-Trump. I do have to say that I'm anti-Trumpism, I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the rule of law. But this is not about one man. This is about Trumpism. It's an ideology. Play the clip.
The United States yesterday, because we were having lunch yesterday and the president said, JD, I don't know how I did it. I have actually got the Democrats to come out in defense of crime. And it is the crazy. If Donald Trump came out tomorrow and said he really likes puppies, you would have AOC come out and say puppies are terrible. So you have
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Actually, why don't you have him come out? In fact, why don't you have who is it? Kristi Noem come out and say I like puppies too, the ones that I shoot in a ditch. Stop. It's absolutely not true. It's 100% firing, for example, the Fed board member, wanting to fire Jerome Powell so you could take over the Fed, determine interest rates, bankrupt this country, throw us into a recession. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Cutting 330 hospitals, limiting the health care that Americans, forgetting about Republican, Democrat, or Independent, are going to be able to access. Yeah, I'm not okay with that. Telling a woman that she doesn't have the intelligence in order to make her own reproductive decision making, yeah, I'm not with that one either. Closing borders, making immigration a little more, making it more difficult for people to come to the United States and stay. Sure, I do believe that a country without borders, quite frankly, isn't a country. I don't like the manner to which that they're going about it. I don't like the fact that there are ICE agents running around the street with no badges, with masks on, just waiting for a copycat to come ahead and do that who's actually not ICE and kidnap somebody. There needs just to be a better process. But I'm not opposed to coming up with better immigration. In fact, if you can actually improve, as Donald Trump says that he will, give us favored nation for status for pharmaceuticals, I'm 100% all for it. And I turn around and say, good job. Meanwhile, finally, Vance also goes on and he mentions Mamdani. And his comments sounded, well, let's just say eerily similar to his claim that Zelensky never said thank you. Play the clip.
Does Mamdani, when you hear him speak, is this a man who feels gratitude for the United States of America? Is this a man who feels grateful for all of the opportunities, the incredible bounty of this country? I don't know the guy, but my sense is he's had a very good life in this country. It would be nice for him to occasionally show a sense of gratitude instead of just attacking the United States for all of its problems.
You bring up, whoa, is there anybody that attacks the United States for all of its problems better than you, Shady? Or president or the administration? Everything is wrong. How many times have you heard the president of the United States turn around and say that the country's a shithole? Turn around and say LA is a shithole, Chicago's a shithole, New York's a shithole, all the Democratic states are shitholes. Come on, man, practice what you preach. It's why I constantly say, please, over the course of this weekend, do me a favor, watch, comment, like, share. This lunacy, this insanity, this chaos, we need to make it stop. And as always, thanks for listening. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.